Hey everyone, finished watching the next Dino Thunder episode, Game On. This is an episode I remembered liking a bit, like even when I was younger and I wasn't really big into Dino Thunder. So, this one starts off, Ethan's at Haley Cyberspace, he's getting really into some computer game, and then meanwhile, Cassidy Cornell is dragging Devon along while she practices getting into character for a part in a play. That, that doesn't really go anywhere. Mesagog and Zeltrax are spying on Ethan, and we have that annoying stock music looping throughout the whole scene, and I don't know why isn't this a problem for anyone? Why does no one see this as like a negative in the Disney seasons, the stock music? Like I've never heard anybody mention it before, but when I went back and watched all these Disney seasons, the stock music stood out to me a lot, and it just really, really annoys me. Like, is it just because like I'm sensitive to repetitive music? I don't know. Away from all that, they make a new monster, Demagnetron. Though the monster's voice was so like buzzy, I didn't understand him when he said his name. He comes out the genome randomizer, whatever, and he goes like, what in the world did you just say? And when everybody else says the name, everybody pronounces it slightly differently. Like, some people say Demagnetron, but then other characters say Demagnetron. Like, what? So just waited till the end credits. Demagnetron. Not a creative name or anything. It doesn't even really relate to his powers. Like, what? Like, his power is to send Ethan into the computer. And that's about it. What does that have to do with demagnetizing anything? Dr. O has assembled Connor and Kira for some training when suddenly they're ambushed by Zeltrax and some Tyrannodrones. Connor and Kira use the Raptor cycles to fight them off while Tommy fights Zeltrax. The villains retreat and the Rangers go to warn Ethan that something might be up. Demagnetron finds Ethan first, and I like this scene here. Ethan's inside Haley's cyberspace. Oh yeah, Haley closed up the cyberspace but let Ethan stay there because... And so he's trying to finish the game, and the monster shows up right outside the window, and it's a really cool shot. It kind of looks like the shot from Turning Red, where May is looking through the window at that guy she likes and says Awooga. The monster zaps Ethan through the window, and then Ethan is sent into the computer. And then Cassidy and Devon show up and break into the cyberspace. Yeah, really? What? I don't. And it's weird. There's this. Nothing comes of this. Cassidy and Devon are such a weird addition and element in this episode. They don't really do anything important. They don't really serve a purpose. They don't contribute to anything. They're not funny. I don't know what they're doing here. It's like the episode was like running short and they were like, stick them in there, have them do funny stuff for like a minute and a half or whatever. But none of it's funny. None of it means anything. They break into the thing and then the monster zaps them into the computer because, I don't know. Ethan comes face to face with a character in the game, Beldorf the Wizard. He tries to explain to him what's going on. Beldorf mistakes him for an enemy and leaves. I like Beldorf, but he doesn't really get to do a whole lot in this episode. Meanwhile, Connor and Kira bump into Demagnetron and begins attacking them. Then we see Cassidy and Devon in the computer game world. Cassidy trips and falls in mud. Laugh. Ethan follows Beldorf to his little hobbit house, which is kind of cool. I highly doubt this was made just for Dino Thunder. I'm assuming this must have been like a leftover from Lord of the Rings or something. In fact, the guy that plays Beldorf reminded me of like some of the hobbits at the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings movie, and I was like, he must have been in one of those. He had to have been. This is a Disney season. This is in New Zealand. So I looked him up, but turns out no, he was never in Lord of the Rings. But he was in Legend of the Seeker, that garbage Lord of the Rings knockoff show. And he was also in Xena, so not all bad. Ethan's trying to convince him to help him escape the game, and then he's surrounded and attacked by all these black and white things, which they never give a name to, which is really weird. Ethan is so into this game, I thought that was supposed to be the setup for explaining these creatures, but nope. Beldorf doesn't either. These creatures aren't given a name until the end, by a character who has, like, no interaction or relevance to any of the stuff surrounding those creatures. I'll get to that at the end. So, Kira goes inside Haley's cyberspace and gets sucked into the computer because there's some residual energy in Ethan's little thingy that he hooked up to the computer that's this weird looking hacker thing. She ends up with Ethan. She fights the creatures with him. Connor's outside fighting the monster. He gets tossed inside Haley's cyberspace. He bumps into the little computer thingy, which somehow zaps Kira and Ethan out of the thing, but the creatures came along with them. So then the fight goes outside, they're fighting the monster, they're fighting the creatures, and suddenly the creatures just disappear. They don't, like, show them leaving, they don't, like, get destroyed, like you punch a putty in the Z and they blow up or anything. No, they're just gone. It doesn't get any, like, acknowledgement or anything. Then the monster retreats. Bye. The Rangers go inside to check on the computer and find out Beldorf has come through to their reality. Then at Tommy's lab, Dr. O scolds Ethan for letting a monster sneak up on him. Okay, first of all, the monster was outside the window. Ethan was, like, way at the other side of the building. I think it's, like, fair to assume that there was no way to avoid this. He had no way of knowing the monster would be outside the window. That's another thing that I thought, like, Cassidy and Devin were going to be doing. Like, they'd have some kind of, like, when they break into the thing, it was they would find Ethan gone and they'd go warn the other Rangers, but no, they don't really contribute anything, like I said. The whole thing with Dr. O scolding Ethan isn't really for any other reason but for a gag. Beldorf gets tired of hearing him complain, waves his wand, and zips Tommy's mouth shut. Thanks, Beldorf. Best character. My favorite character in Dino Thunder. Actually, genuinely, I think Beldorf might be my favorite character. He's unique, he's fun, he has a cool look to him. He's, like, a really different kind of character for Power Rangers. I would have really loved to see him stick around and come back in other episodes, but nah, he's only in this one episode. He does come back to voice one character in Ninja Steel once. Yay. The monster shows back up, so the Rangers go to stop him. They destroy the monster, he revives, and then Tommy decides to be an idiot and jump up at the big monster and try to hit it. Why is Tommy being an idiot in this episode? He gets swatted away, unsurprisingly. I don't know what he expected to happen. Best Ranger. They get the Zords, they destroy the monster for good. Then at Mesogog's Island Fortress, Zeltrax shows up with the black and white creatures. He calls them Triptoids. Is that their name? How did he know it? Did he name them himself? Did he see these things and think to himself, what's a good name for these things? I know, I'll call them Triptoids. That's a cutesy name. I like cutesy. Also, I just like to imagine Zeltrax finding these things just wandering around. Like, they don't have any reason to be fighting the Rangers when they first come out of the computer game, other than they're, like, the evil minions in the game or whatever. So, in the real world, they probably just, like, got bored with the Rangers and went off to do whatever it is they do in the game. And then Zeltrax happens across them. Did he get attacked by them? Or, like, did he just find them and did he look like something in the game, maybe? That would have been kind of a cool idea if there was a thing kind of like Zeltrax in the game. The Triptoids recognize him because he resembles the thing in the game, and they think that, like, oh, he's, like, our leader. Or they could have gone kind of a Beast Wars Inferno deal where they're like, oh, hey, it's our queen. That would have been... Actually, that would have been kind of a clever thing, because Zeltrax's counterpart in Abaranger, or at least part of it, was female. At Haley's cyberspace, Haley sends Beldorf back into the computer, and that somehow frees Cassidy and Devin. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about them. So yeah, this episode's kind of fun, there's a lot of flaws, but so far I've actually enjoyed this a lot more than pretty much every episode since the first one. The game Ethan is playing actually looks like a real game, which is cool. Usually in TV shows, when there's a fictional video game, it feels artificial. Here, though, one of the things the writers did that really worked well was they didn't explain a lot in the game. There's a code in the game that will be unlocked when you gather up keys. To get the keys, you need to interact with this character Beldorf. And that's about all the explanation we get of the game. And that's all we need. We don't need to go super in-depth. I think going super in-depth with the video game might have ruined it a little bit and made it feel a little too fake and artificial. But for how they handled it here, I think they did it really, really well. Trent pops in throughout the episode. He doesn't really contribute anything. He's like Richie from MMPR, but he actually has even less of a presence than Richie did. I like Trent, but if I didn't know the role he would play later on, I wouldn't even have bothered bringing him up at all. Cassidy and Devin's roles are really weird. They do not feel like they belong in this episode. They never interact with any of the main characters until the very end. And they're not funny. This is a really big step down from before, where they're trying to scam senior discounts out of people. This is definitely like a weak usage for their characters. Their whole shtick here just reminds me more of Percy from VR Troopers, and not in a good way. This is totally something they would do with Percy. Have him fall down in mud, and that's the whole joke. He fell in mud. I love the look of the video game world. It's a creative idea, and there's definitely an attempt to make the world look unique, but I don't feel like it goes far enough. Like, it works okay, but I think they could have, I don't know, maybe lit it a little differently, or I don't know, had something different going on. Like, in the video game, when you see Ethan playing it at the beginning, what if we saw, like, little icons bouncing around? What if there was, like, a life bar up in the corner, and then when he goes into the world, those graphics are, like, in his field of vision? That would be kind of a cool visual. But instead, it's the New Zealand woods with a weird filter put over it. Like, it works fine for the episode, it's not bad, but I just feel like it could have gone farther and done more with it. The whole, like, idea of a fantasy world in Power Rangers made me remember Storybook Rangers from back in Mighty Morphin. The Rangers get sucked into a storybook, and the whole world is designed, like, really bright, really garish, and everything has a slight artificial feel to it, and the backgrounds are all, like, illustrations, and there was a lot of effort put into making the storybook world look very different from the normal world, and it worked really well in that episode. And even Grumble the elf is kind of similar to Beldorf, as he's a character who doesn't really want anything to do with the Rangers at first, and the Rangers have to slowly convince him that they're allies of his, they're friends, they're not enemies, they're not trying to inconvenience him in any way, and so then he agrees to help them in the end. But there's a few weird things. Beldorf is a weird character because as much as I like the character, he's pointless. He doesn't serve any purpose in the episode. He's just a weird guy. And that's it. He's there and that's it. There's nothing to him. He doesn't help Ethan escape the game. Connor just bumps into the thing and Ethan and Kira are zapped out. He doesn't like give any exposition or explanation about what the Triptoids are. He doesn't really explain anything. He's just a weird guy who's in the episode. And even in the end, Ethan is talking to Beldorf about the thing he hooked, the hacker thing that he hooked up to try and get the code. Ethan tells Beldorf, I'm gonna try and get the code the right way by playing the game, and Beldorf's like, good for you, and like, was that the moral? Don't cheat at video games? That's a pretty weak moral, even for Power Rangers. Beldorf could have been so much more. Actually, I think this episode could have been a two-parter, and it would have, like, flowed just fine. Like, do more in the video game world. Do more with Beldorf. Have him actually play a part. Have some, like, knowledge from Ethan about the Triptoids. That's a really weird thing in this episode, is the Triptoids. Like, at the beginning, Ethan is super into the video game, so you think he's going to be the source of a lot of information to the audience about the stuff in the video game. When he goes into the video game world, like, he knows who Beldorf is, he knows who the Triptoids are, he knows the premise of the game, but none of that plays into anything. The final thing that I want to talk about is Tommy in this episode is kind of useless. Let's see, he takes the Rangers out to train, and then he yells at Ethan for a while. He acts like an idiot fighting the monster. Tommy's Zord is completely useless in this episode. Like, the most useless of any of his anything. There's not really an explanation for why did Tommy make a Zord that can't fight. Like, according to Dino Thunder's canon, Tommy and Haley made the Zords for this season. Why did they make the Brachiozord unable to fight? It can't do anything. It's even weaker than Titanus. Titanus could at least fire lasers and, like, form with the Megazord, but at this point, the Brachiozord can't do crap. Why does Tommy even bother summoning it? Back in the first episode that they had the Zords, the Zords just came on their own. They didn't need the Brachiozord to carry them. Also, where's the Cephalozord? Why didn't they give Tommy the Cephalozord? He could have used that now. I know it's not in the Japanese footage, but I don't care. This is Power Rangers. It's different. You're allowed to do different things. It seems like they could just get the Zords quicker if they just call them and not bother with the Brachiozord. In the end, I like this episode. Beldorf is cool. I like the premise of being sucked into a video game. I think they did I think there were some interesting things more in concept than in execution, but overall, it was a fun episode, and I really liked it. There's lots of stuff I have problems with, especially in retrospect. This is one of those episodes where you watch it as a kid, and it's the coolest thing ever. Then you grow up and you watch it again, and you're like, wow, that was not as good as I remembered at all. So yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.